Hey everyone, most of you will know that Electrocute was nerfed recently, right? And the way that it was changed hurts junglers more than anything else, to be honest. That's why it can actually be better to take Dark Harvest on junglers now, and probably way more than you think. In fact, with almost every Electrocute jungler, Dark Harvest now has a higher win rate. There are some that are better than others though, so that is what this video is going to break down. But first up, let's quickly explain why this happened. So Electrocute was given a lower cooldown, right, and lower damage. So it means that if you can use it more often, it's probably actually a little stronger than it was before. Junglers obviously can't use the lower cooldown, really. They can't trade more often, so it's just a straight up damage nerf. So with Dark Harvest then, you can get the stacks from jungle camps, from cannon minions if you tax or you time it right, I guess, and from champions, right? So it still actually rewards ganking. You'll be a little bit weaker early game, but stronger later into the game, and the game isn't as fast as it used to be, so that works out just fine. It's also a reset mechanic, so every time that you get a kill in a team fight or your teammate dies, actually you get souls from them as well, you pick up another stack and you can proc the damage again. The biggest thing about Dark Harvest that everybody doesn't really think about is a lot of the damage actually comes from the ratios. It uses 25% of your bonus AD and 20% of your bonus AP. So basically, yes, getting more stacks is more damage, and that's great, but the more damage you build from items, the more damage that Dark Harvest will actually do, and that is why it works so well on damaged junglers that stack AD or AP. So with that out of the way, I've got 4 groups. The best, some junglers that Dark Harvest is awesome with, some that it definitely works, but it's just not as popular, and finally some that it will work on, but are more fun. So the best champions then, and Nidalee is first, where people actually notice how good it could really be on a jungler, and now use more, and it actually wins more than Electrocute. You have 2 really good things with Nidalee. You gank a lot actually, and you farm really well, right? Which means you're going to be getting a lot of stacks from both of those. You also have the Lichbane synergy, which is there to provide you with burst, right? But with Dark Harvest, it's actually even more, and it applies at the same time basically. You can heal yourself, for example, and then burst with both of those for a massive chunk at range. You build a lot of AP to buff up the ratio, so that is really good. You're going to be doing a lot of damage, especially as you go through the game, but there are 2 ways that you can use this with Nidalee. Number 1, when you dive into execute, right? So you're more likely to kill the person, which is really important because once you dive in, you're pretty vulnerable after that, but also from range to soften them up first. Lower their health in range to then execute. Ringo is another that is practically perfect for Dark Harvest. It's so good. It's now used slightly more and it wins a lot more. You don't have to do anything differently. You will 100% use it every time you dive in with your ultimate. It helps to one-shot somebody, but then you pick up another soul from the dead guy and move on to the next one. You build a lot of AD, which is perfect to make it do more damage. It works really well with like a Dust Blade, with Stormrazor proc as well. Like the 2 of those together and Dark Harvest, it's like a triple assassination bonus damage style. Is great. There is another big thing that we haven't talked about yet. You have a lot of lethality and arm penetration, right? So Dark Harvest does apply physical damage. All of that arm pen makes Dark Harvest do more damage and bypass more armor. Kha'Zix isn't really used as much as Electrocute yet, but it does win a lot more actually, so you'll see it a lot more over the next probably like few weeks or something. It's the same as Ringo though. You have AD, you have lethality to make Dark Harvest do a lot more damage. It works pretty well with your jump reset actually at the same time. If you get a kill, you can jump again, right? Jump to another target, normally the next target. You'll also pick up another Dark Harvest stack from the first person when you get the reset, so you always jump to the next with the damage ready to proc. It's pretty good with this kit as well. If you think about that, you got the passive damage, you have Dark Harvest, you have Dust Blade, the isolated Q, so that is a lot of damage in that very first second when you start a fight. So if you basically combine everything that we've already talked about in this video so far, you kind of got like Evelynn, and that is why she is so insane with it. Not used as much as Electrocute just yet, but it does have a really good win rate, which does make sense. You don't have to do anything differently either. Like your auto attack at least once during her charm burst combo, the same reason you pick up a Lichbane. After you execute them for the kill as well, after that combo, the Dark Harvest soul actually follows you, and then it lets you proc it again on the next target after that. It works with Lichbane just to give you more straight up damage, as we said with Nidalee. You build a lot of AP, which boosts it, and you're getting a Morello and a Void most of the time, which lets Dark Harvest get through more magic resist to do more damage. Shaco is probably the one that isn't really that new, actually. Like, it was used the most before now, and it wins the most as well. You stack AD, you stack lethality to buff it up, which is great. You're already a late game assassin, which is exactly what you want from this anyway, but it's just adding even more damage in there. Your job is to get in there and backstab, right? That already does a ton later anyway, but then you've got Dust Blade, you've got Trinity Force with the Sheen, and now Dark Harvest on top of that. The reset can also actually just help you do that little bit more to one person in a team fight. And remember, it works on towers, which is really big with Shaco, because if you split push, it's even better and it will take the towers faster. So let's move into some really good champions. Not used as much at all, but it's a really good option, and Graves is one of those. It just gives him even more damage. It's about the same win rate though as Fleet Forward Press the Attack, but it's much better than Electrocute. It lets you go sudden impact and more damage in the domination tree anyway, which is good, but later with how much AD that you actually have, it bursts really hard. Especially now most people go Storm Laser second. It's that guaranteed crit and guaranteed Dark Harvest damage to chunk them out at the very start. You've got AD and the arm penetration to help it scale a little bit, but you farm really well, so you're going to be getting a lot of stacks. You can also gank, so it helps you snowball a little bit if that's successful. It's amazing though at nuking lower health targets and taking those towers. Kayn had a lot of buffs recently, but Dark Harvest is winning a lot more than Electrocute, but it's not used as much just yet. It's getting very close though. It's probably because a lot of people don't think it makes sense if you go red Kayn, right? But it is actually for both of them. Assassin is obviously amazing. Like Rengar, you have the AD, you have the lethality to buff it up. That's great. You can reset with it in team fights, and obviously it kind of lends itself to the way you want to play as Assassin. The red Kayn, like Rust, is actually still fine though. It gives you more threat and it's still better than Electrocute. You have AD from Warrior, from Cleaver, even if you're building tank afterwards. Just like think of it kind of like a tank that does way more damage than you're ready for, and that is why it can work on both. Ekko is probably one that you didn't expect here. Not exactly the most popular jungler, but Dark Harvest has over a 55% win rate so far in the patch. It works because of Lichbane to start with. When you dive in with your E, it is that damage from your E, the Lichbane, and the Dark Harvest now buffing it up afterwards. It moves the burst to the very start of combat. You stand a bit more chance of bursting them down within a stun duration, so that is going to massively help at the start. And also, you grab a lot of AP to buff it, plus it has the reset. Ekko isn't really like blow his load and then he's done, right? He's very consistent damage, so once you've killed one person, you can grab the next soul, E forward, and then do it all over again. Diana jungle is a bit weird actually. Maybe this works mid as well. I haven't tested that one, but it is a much better win rate than Electrocute in the jungle. You've got the upfront burst damage when you jump in, which is what Diana is kind of really known for, right? Like the one-shot burst, which is probably enough to one-shot someone anyway. Then you add in Dark Harvest to make it even better. But then you grab the soul after that and you have more damage for the next person, and it kind of, she is a burst machine, so it makes a lot of sense anyway. I kind of like a Nidalee when you dive in. Right, so now we're on to the good but not as common, and it's about the same as other keystones. So it is good, but maybe not outright the best, if that makes sense. Like Nocturne, right, can use this a lot like a Rengar. He jumps in with his ultimate and nukes somebody down even harder than normal. He builds a lot of AD and lethality to make it do more. He can even farm well to stack it, but he is also about the more consistent damage and dueling, which is a lot worse with this rather than lethal tempo. Lee Sin actually wins slightly more with Dark Harvest, but again, it's really playstyle and personal preference. If you want to gank a lot more and you don't want to build as much AD or arm penetration to make it do a lot of damage later, then you probably just want to stick with Electrocute. If you're building heavy AD, especially lethality, but even just like Sterox and stuff like that, it can work really well. If you're going to go Bruiser, Electrocute might still be better, but if you're going to go AD to carry, then Dark Harvest is great. Jarvan is similar to Lee Sin actually. Dark Harvest wins more than Electrocute at the moment, but it won't if you're going to be building a Bruiser or especially not a tank. Grab Warrior, Cleaver, Titanic Hydra, Guardian Angel. You're giving Dark Harvest more AD to work with, and you're going to be more of a threat while staying tanky-ish, or at least like high health. It's the same reason that Dustbait can make Jarvan become a one-shot machine, but if you'd rather go like for ganking and go Deadman's a Visage, then it's not really going to be worth it. Vi definitely makes a bit more sense though, especially if you're going to go for a more damage heavy build, which you normally do. Like Q into ultimate is already almost a one-shot combo. Throw in Dark Harvest and it definitely is, right? You've got the burst damage, the sheen, and now Dark Harvest on top. Electrocute would help you have a bit more early impact if you're looking to mainly be an ultimate bot, but this could even help you carry a bit harder later. Now, Elise might sound a bit weird, but if you think about it, it is just like Nidalee, except you can't farm quite as well and you can't stack it up quite as much. You also don't have a Lichbane, I guess, but you do have a Morello very early into the game and a lot of AP to make it hurt, which is great. It adds to your one-shot combo, something that if Elise can't one-shot somebody, then she kind of becomes useless. So you stun, you go into everything with your kit, buy it, and you'll apply it, right? You should make you more deadly, and it does win a fair bit more than Electrocute already. Rek'Sai has a few more keystone choices than normal, but if you go full AD, then Dark Harvest can get a good boost, and it helps you be more of a threat when you're diving in. You can go press the attack to duel better early, and that is the part that you might lose a bit more and feel sad about. If you're trying to invade and 1v1 anybody, press the attack definitely early is going to be better. But as you get further into the game, Dark Harvest will start to overtake here, and it definitely looks better than Electrocute or Hail of Blades if you're going for burst. Wukong is really about the one shot, right? Duskblade, Q, Dark Harvest into ultimate, and Wukong is designed to scale a bit better, so that is perfect. You build AD and lethality, so that part also makes a lot of sense, but he doesn't farm as well, and he doesn't do as much after his ultimate with the reset. It does win slightly more than Electrocute, but it does mean that you have to auto, and if you just want to dive in and ultimate, then it's not going to be doing as much. Talia fits his idea really well. You build a lot of AP, even Morello for Magic Pen to make it hit harder early into the game. So yes, it can work well. The issue is that you don't naturally work an auto attack into your rotation, and especially not later into the game. So is it more damage? Pretty sure it is actually more damage, but it's way more risky to use it, which is why Electrocute is still the default choice, because you can use it with your Q from range. Hecarim doesn't really use Electrocute as much. He goes for Predator, right? So he can run around even faster, but Dark Harvest is actually his highest win rate keystone. He does gain a bunch of AD based on some of his move speed. So even though he doesn't build a ton of AD, he gets it from elsewhere in his kit, which then boosts Dark Harvest damage up massively. It is honestly the weirdest one of the video, the one I didn't expect at all. It turns him into a real one-shot pony running around at full speed and nuking them down even harder when he does charge in. So I have a few more where it's a lot of fun, but it's probably not the most standard keystone that you want to go for. Like Jax, for example, can use a bunch of different keystones. Press the attack, Conqueror are probably better, but Dark Harvest is there. Also, you do build a lot of AD and AP, which will feed into Dark Harvest. Both of them will. So it makes more sense than you probably think. Pantheon doesn't quite win as much as Electrocute, but not far behind actually. You have the AD, the arm penetration to make it work, but you do actually have to auto attack and to scale. Like Electrocute procs with just abilities, it's really good early for ganking, which is what you want to do. Sometimes you just want to W and E instead, right? Pantheon also is an amazing early game champion, but not as good as you get later, which is kind of like at odds with Dark Harvest and how it works. Master Yi is still pretty bonkers with Conqueror, but Dark Harvest isn't actually a bad option if you want something else, and it is really fun. It's not ideal when you stack attack speed. As we said, we want AD or AP, so thankfully a lot of other items have some AD on them on top, especially like Sterex or a GA. Also, when you reset, it is so good. This is what really revives it for him. You get one kill, you speed after the next person with another Dark Harvest proc and kind of snowball the fight. Gragas is hard to tell exactly how good it is because all his win rates are complete shy, but Dark Harvest wins more than Electrocute or Predator, even though it is used a lot less. It's less about the early game, more about building AP, getting a few items, and nuking them down with your combo if you do build full AP and a Lich Bane. If you think about it, if you have that, you have your W damage, which is really high anyway. You have Dark Harvest and Lich Bane, and any squishy person you hit there and find will be 100% dead. So hopefully that gives you some idea of why you'd want to take Dark Harvest on a jungler now, and on who as well, who the best ones are. Let me know if you've been trying this or not and who it's worked on. Thank you for watching, but for now, I will leave you with the robots.